Part 1. Before. Chapter 1. Asari Space, the moon of Saero 14, September 2186. 0730. Adam slapped his alarm clock and got out of bed. He was a tall man, measuring in at about 8 feet, or 2 meters and 40 centimeters if you used Earth's other system. His bedroom was in a house he had built himself. It was located in an underground area called DX5 in records, but that the locals called New Thesha. The town was here because surface of Saero was covered in a dense jungle. This made building settlements up there far too cumbersome. But fortunately for the colonists, there were plenty of resources in the soil below. This had resulted in several companies investing in the mining the moon. When they were active, the mines provided jobs. And once they ran dry, the mines provided an easy place to build towns. DX5 had run out useful things to mine over 200 years ago. This meant New Thesha was one of the oldest towns on Saero. It was also pretty big by local standards, having a population of over 1,200. Of course, none of this changed the fact that Adam had to get to work. So he showered and got dressed. He was halfway through breakfast when there was a knock at the door. "Come in, it's not locked." His best friend, Shari Tiwaz, entered the kitchen. Only 50 years old, she was young by Asari standards. But when you had 1,000 years lifespan, Adam guessed some of the rules had to be different. He finished breakfast and they headed out. His house had been on the edge of town when he had built it, but now there were 8 more streets behind it. This put his place in the middle of the alien neighborhood. Most of his street was inhabited by Turians, Batarians, and Salarians. The only other person from Earth was James McKinley, who ran a sandwich shop at the end of the street where it met several others. As they passed McKinley's sandwich shop, they were already busy speculating on what today's project would be. Adam and Shari worked for the Bureau of Exploration. The local town council wanted New Thesha to expand, but they also wanted people to be safe. So the BOE had been created to determine which tunnels were safe and which were disasters in the making. Because of the Bureau's acronym, and because they worked in dark places, the employees of the BOE had been nicknamed ghosts by the locals. They reached the office, which was located in the old center of town. It was a small building, but there were dozens of people crammed inside. Leading the bureau was a Turian called Amaro Vayer. He was considered a good leader by the people of New Thesha. The bureau was a mix of every species on Saero. But thanks to Vayer's methods of running the place, arguments were few and far between. "Okay, ghosts, let's all pay attention." The room went quiet. "We've been dancing around this one as long as we can, but we can't put it off anymore. Adam, Shari, you'll be leading a reconstruction team down to Gamma 2. There were moans from all over the place. Gamma 2 was the town's main sewer tunnel. Besides exploration, the Bureau also had to do maintenance work on areas that were too dangerous for the city maintenance office. The Bureau folks didn't mind the danger, but they did mind the smell. I know, it stinks, but the sooner we get started, the sooner we can move on. We should be able to get it done in 3 days. More moans erupted from the team. "So let's going, dismissed folks." Adam and Shari headed for the locker room. There was work to be done. Saero, New Thesha Gamma 2 entrance, 14, September 2186. 0805. The entrance to Gamma 2 was an old cargo elevator shaft. Said elevator had been removed years ago. This left a shaft that ran from the surface down to the hatch to Gamma 2. Looking up, Adam saw the gas giant of Terepso. This was the planet Saero orbited. A major source of helium-3 spaceship fuel, this world was the heart of a network of space stations and lunar colonies, but the team had work to do below. So he led the way down the shaft. "You can smell it from up here," Shari said. "Smells like rotten meat." "Another reason why I'm a vegetarian," he said with a smile. They reached the hatch to the sewers. It was 2 meters across with servo motors to open and close it. Adam found a dusty old keyboard and entered his clearance code. He hoped the engines still worked as he pressed the execute button. They hadn't been used in years. Fortunately, the engines groaned to life several seconds later. The open hatch revealed a ladder going down. Shari was carrying a backpack full of chemical light sticks. She took 2 from the pack and bent them to activate them. She attached one to the top of the ladder and threw the other down the opening. Then she led the way down. Besides Adam and Shari, the team had 3 more members. Vara Gian was a Batarian female and the structural expert. Vrola's Jacker was a Tyrian male who knew everything there was to know about tools. And Naza Tiwaz was Shari's twin sister. She was just as smart as Shari, but had taken an interest in bodybuilding, and thus ended up as the muscle of the team. "Okay, let's see how bad it is," Vara said as they reached the bottom of the ladder. Vara took several chemical light sticks from Shari's backpack before leading the way down the tunnel. She dropped the sticks in places that she figured were most in need of repair. The others followed and provided extra light by carrying flashlights. Gamma 2 was a brickwork tunnel that was tall enough to stand up in. 3 days my backside, Vara began. We're going to need at least a week to do this right. Are you sure? Naza asked. Yep. Whoever fixed up the tube last time did a rush job, and now we're paying the price. Probably one of Fazal's teams, Vrolas said. The town council fired him for a reason. Fazal Zyvan was a Salarian male who had been in charge of the bureau 12 years ago. After 2 years of running it, he had been fired for gross incompetence. A month later, Veyer had been promoted to bureau leader. But every now and then, some of the works from the Fazal period came back to haunt the current generation of ghosts. The team looked at Adam, who was team leader. You heard the lady. A week it is, he said. Let's get going. There were nods, and they got to work. Say Arrow, New Thesha Gamma 2 Sewer Tunnel 20, September 2186. 1553. Adam was hammering in a nail with a smile on his face. There were reasons he had left Earth. Things he had done, demons to leave behind, and when he was down here, doing something to make this city better for the people who called it home, he was happy. He was part of something. His team, Alpha 2, was his own little clan. Yes, sometimes they fought, and sometimes they bickered. But in the end, they always had each other's back. And they were part of a bigger family as well. Team Alpha 3 had demonstrated this. They had finished their assignment a day ahead of schedule. But instead of taking the day off, they had come down to Gamma 2 to help Adam and company. Which was why Alpha 2 was now putting the finishing touches on the repairs to Gamma 2. That should do it, Adam said as he inspected his handiwork. He had been working on one of the structural supports keeping the ceiling up. The wood had been rotten and the nails rusted, so they had replaced the lot. Vara joined him. That's the last one, boss. We're done. Hello, anybody down here? A male voice yelled from above. Nobody but us ghosts. Adam answered with a laugh in his voice. The exchange was an in-joke between the Bureau of Exploration and City Maintenance Office employees. When Veyer had taken charge of the Bo-E, the relationship between them and City Maintenance had been pretty sour. This was also the fault of Fazal of Zyvan and his management style. These days, the relationship between the two was good. Adam and Vara were standing near the entrance, so they were the first to see Henry McKinley arrive in the tunnel. Henry was the son of James McKinley, and at age 24, he was the youngest leader of the city maintenance office. You all done here, because my dad has a bunch of sandwiches that require eating. We're done, Adam said. Lead the way. Henry began climbing back up the ladder. The ghosts grabbed their tools and followed him. Shari and Adam were the last 2 left in the tunnel. It was a tradition that they were always the last to leave the work site. Shari climbed up the ladder first, and Adam followed. He liked the view as he did so. Adam would never saw so, but there were moments he wanted more than friendships with Shari. Then he reached the top of the ladder and pushed the thought aside. They had sandwiches to eat. Sayero, New Thesha, Eden Prime Street, 20 September 2186. 1747. The sandwiches had been very tasty, and thanks to the Asari liquor store next door, had also been accompanied with drinks. The small gathering ended up turning into a large, spontaneous party. But Adam was feeling the weight of the day, so he was headed home. On this way there, he had noticed that the street had been cleaned. Despite what some people thought, the city maintenance people always worked their butts off. And today, they had been going to town on several streets in the alien neighborhood. Adams Street was called Eden Prime Street after the human colony. The other streets in neighborhood were named after only colonies. But none of this was on his mind as he approached his house. There was something odd in the air, like the quiet before a storm. He had just unlocked the door when he heard somebody yell his name. He turned around to see Shari run towards him. "Shari, what are you doing here? Your parents will be worried if you don't." That was as far as he got before she kissed him. After that, there was no more talking. Chapter 2. New Thesha, Adam's House, Bedroom 21, September 2186. 0913. Adam woke when somebody knocked on his front door. Shari was still there, her head and left arm resting on his chest. After gently untangling himself from her, he quickly got dressed. He expected to see Shari's parents when he opened the door, so he began forming his explanation in his head. But when he opened the door, it was Vara Jian that stood there. There was a worried look on her face. "Vara, what's wrong?" "I was watching the news feed from the Karshan Free News. The Batarian hegemony was a far from diplomatic and free government, but not even they could keep complete control. The Karshan Free News was that smallest stream of truth they couldn't block. And the feed died, Adam. Maybe the government finally caught them." "That's what I thought. So I checked the government channels, but there was nothing. The government feeds are dead as well." Adam frowned. If the hegemony had caught whoever was behind the Karshan Free News, they would be boasting about it on all the frequencies they had at their disposal. And if they had gone completely dead, it was indeed bad news. He led the way to his study, where his computer terminal was waiting for them. It only took a few seconds to start it up. "Let's see if my security clearance will get us some answers." One of the perks of being a team leader was that it gave you a higher security clearance than the average ghost. He began searching through the news feeds and the government database. What he could access was painting a bleak picture. He was thinking about how to break the news to Vara when Shari entered the room. She was wearing his spare bathrobe. It was far too big for her, but she still looked stunning in it. Despite her own problems, Vara couldn't help smiling. "So, this finally happened. Naza will happy to know she won the betting pool." "Of course she did," Shari said with a smile, but that was where the smiles ended. Because Adam had to tell Vara what he had found, Shari saw the look on his face. "Adam, what's wrong?" "The feeds for Karshan have gone dead. I've searched the database, and it's not good." He turned to Vara. "The hegemony has been attacked, Vara." Vara had parents and siblings back in the hegemony. The news made her knees buckle. Adam caught her, while Shari quickly grabbed a nearby chair. He gently put her down in the chair, while Shari put her arm around Vara. "Can you get her a glass of water?" Shari asked. Adam nodded and walked out of the study. As he got the water, he got the feeling that this was just the beginning of a period of darkness. The storm he had sensed yesterday was heading straight for their town now. New Thesha Street, 21 September 2186. 1017. Shari was taking Vara home. Adam had eaten breakfast and was now on his way to Veyer's office. If anybody knew just how bad this was going to get, it would be him. As he entered the Bureau of Exploration, the place was eerily quiet. The teams had already been given their assignments and headed out of the day. Veyer's office in the attic of the headquarters. It was one big room full of filing cabinets with Veyer's desk in the middle. Veyer was sitting behind his desk. Adam, you know you have the day off, right? Yes, but Vara came by. The feeds from the hegemony have gone dark, boss. I know, Veyer sighed and leaned back in his chair. I've been making calls, and it's not good, Adam. There are a single chair besides the one Veyer was sitting in. I think you should sit down, Adam. Adam sat down. If Veyer was worried, it had to be bad. Have you ever heard about Reapers? He frowned. There had been some crazy Systems Alliance officer who had been spouting claims about something called Reapers several years ago. But like most of the people of New Thesha, Adam has ignored it as insane ramblings. He couldn't remember the officer's name, but that didn't matter. I heard some crazy-made claims about them a few years back. Well, I have sources back home. Turns out the crazy was right. From what they told me, these Reapers are massive living starships. They want to wipe out every major civilization in the galaxy, and they have the numbers and the weapons to do it. Veyer paused. This is a galactic fight for survival, and it's going to come to New Thesha sooner or later. There was a moment of heavy silence. So, what do we do? Officially, we're playing dumb. Unofficially, I have 3 meetings planned for today alone, and another 4 for tomorrow. Anything I can do to help? Not today. I need to keep up the illusion that everything is fine. Adam nodded. Then he walked out of the office. Due to its underground location, everybody had always presumed that New Thesha was impossible to invade, so there was no invasion playbook. But if these Reapers had wiped out the Batarian hegemony, then all the old presumptions were out the window. He got the feeling that this would be his last day off for a long time. New Thesha Adams Garden, 21 September 2186. 1905. The garden behind Adam's house was not very big, but it had everything he needed. There was a wooden picnic table on a small terrace, a shed with tools and 2 bicycles, and a small greenhouse full of plants. Several strings of lights bathed the whole thing in a cozy glow. One of the perks of living underground was that you didn't have to worry about rain. So Adam tended to eat dinner in the garden when he could. He was digging into his pasta with mushrooms and cheese when there was a knock on the gate to the back alley. It's open, Reimer. The gate opened, and his neighbor, Reimer Jaipal, entered the garden. He was a Salarian who worked as a freelance accountant for several shop owners so that they could focus on running their shops. Reimer and Adam had been friends since the day he had moved in. And every now and then, they would have dinner together. He was carrying a plate of steaming food and 2 beers. Reimer sat down and offered one of the beers to Adam, who smiled and took it. They ate in silence. After they finished, it was Reimer who spoke up first. War is coming, isn't it? Yes. Well, then I guess it's time we eat that Asari berry pudding. You think it's going to be that bad? What do you think? Adam gave him a look, then went inside the house. When he had first moved in, his other neighbor Jera Vazal had given him an Asari berry pudding. Vazal was an 800-year-old Asari whose berry puddings were legendary. In fact, that was how she made her living. And her puddings were like wines. They got better with age. So Adam and Reimer had agreed to save this pudding for a serious occasion. The fact that Reimer was even suggesting it meant that he had picked up on what was about to happen. He opened the fridge and found the pudding. As he headed back to the garden, he thought about today. It had been an odd day. After leaving Veyer's office, he had gone to check on Gian. Next, he and Shari had gone to Happy Place. Happy Place was the town's swimming pool. It also had a restaurant and a children's playground. They had spent hours in the water, only leaving at closing time. It had helped him forget the oncoming storm for a while, but now the storm was back in his view. So he had a pudding to eat,